How's it going, English 218? Quick video to discuss where we've been, where we are, where we're going. So as I've said, the first 4 weeks in this class are not always the most exciting because we're really developing a fundamental set of skills, what I call scientific literacy, where we're really practicing our ability to read and understand and then synthesize and share information in pretty concise and pretty direct ways. And so that's what we've been doing so far, and I realize that it can be kind of rote and kind of monotonous, but it really is important to the work that we're going to do going forward in the semester. And ultimately, it is the fundamental skill to most scientific writing. No matter what you're doing, you have to be able to communicate information pretty rapidly and in pretty compact form. So I appreciate the work that you've done on that. For the most part, people's summaries were in a good spot. A lot of the feedback that I was giving was about the organization of the information. So you had all the information, but maybe it wasn't presented in the most logical or the most useful way. So folks will probably see some feedback about that. And then, I found myself telling a lot of people to think about analyzing or critically engaging with the article. And really what that comes down to is just asking questions and not taking things at face value. So, if the writer hasn't clearly articulated why they made certain decisions in the way that they designed their study, or why they draw the assumptions that they do, I think it's fair to ask questions about those things. So I want you to remember that this is an opportunity for you to earn quite a bit of extra credit for the course, simply by critically engaging with the article. And that doesn't mean that it has to come from your own brain. This is also an opportunity for you to go out and maybe do a little bit of additional research and to find out how that particular article was critically received by other experts. So I'm not asking you to assume the role of expert here, although I think it's very possible to engage in a deep and meaningful way with this work and not be an expert, and to ask questions like, why did they choose that particular population of people to work with? How did they define the word pain? How did they monitor improvement? If these things are not clear to you, then I think it's worth pointing those things out. And so really when we talk about critically engaging with science, it's really effort, and it's really taking the time to scrutinize and to ask questions and to just not take things at face value. Because when we start to take things at face value, then we're just assuming that somebody did all of the thinking for us, I guess is the way that I would put it. I want to see some of that thinking. And again, if you're a go-getter, go out there and get that extra credit. You can earn up to 20 points of extra credit simply by spending a little bit of time thinking about your particular article. So we're going to move on away from summarizing and analyzing, and we're going to move into a new assignment sequence, which is mostly about engaging the public in science and communicating scientific concepts with the public. And so you're going to have two options for this, and I'll share an assignment sheet about this in week 6, but you're either going to have the opportunity to educate the public about a particular scientific topic of your choosing, hopefully something relevant to the article that you summarized for assignment number 1, or you're going to have the opportunity to propose an argument or to try to persuade the audience to change their actions or to take some particular stance on a subject or topic. So those are going to be your two options, but you're going to be writing to the general public now. Instead of communicating with quasi-experts and fellow members of the English 218 community, you are actually going to be communicating directly with the types of people that you are likely to work with on a day-to-day basis, your patients, your clients, the constituencies in your towns, etc. And so that's going to require us to practice a whole new set of skills, but it's going to build on that foundation that we developed early in the semester, which is the ability to read literature rapidly, to synthesize it quickly, and then ultimately we're going to start leveraging this for a variety of different purposes to present various types of information to our audiences. And so this week we're just going to work on revising, and so if you need any assistance on your summary and analysis, if you want to sit down and brainstorm with me, analytical type questions or comments that you can make, I'm happy to do that. All you have to do is reach out to me. I'm happy to do that in any modality. We can go back and forth through email, we can chat on the phone, we can video conference if you'd like, or we can meet in person. So however I can be of use to you, that's what I want to do. So we're going to work on revising, we're going to try to improve our writing, and ultimately what we're going to do then is we're going to read two very different perspectives on a similar topic, both of which are written for a a more public audience than you might find in a scientific journal. And it's about the concept of evidence or science-based medicine. And so on the one hand, we're going to read an article from the Huffington Post that is making the claim that alternative forms of treatment and medicine, so things like chiropractic medicine or acupuncture or some of the more traditional forms of medicine, are undervalued because of our reverence for what is called science or evidence-based medicine. And that's the types of medicine that we see play out in academic journals where people are doing double-blind studies and those types of things, which is really the gold standard for how new treatments are developed. So we have one group of writers who's very critical of this and says that ultimately we put too much faith in that and that's a flawed system. And then we have another perspective that's making the case that no, there's really no other way to do it, and if we didn't do it, we would be in big trouble. And so essentially what I want us to do this week is to read those, to think critically about those, to pay attention to the writing style, to the types of evidence that these various writers use in constructing their arguments, to think about how they use language, to think about the structure that they develop, and to just pay attention to, generally speaking, how they're engaging the public, because engagement's really important. Folks are and I don't mean to generalize or sound like a pessimist, but folks are generally not beating down the door to read science. So we have to make these things meaningful and answer that big question, so what, or why should I care? So that's a really important piece of this, is engagement, but also thinking about how they're able to articulate really complex things to people who maybe do not have that, to people who may not have the background that they have, and that's really important, because as I've said before in this class, and as I say in virtually all of my classes, you're here learning a very specific set of skills. You're developing a new language, and one of the key markers of a successful professional in any given field is the ability to share that knowledge with somebody else who maybe does not have the same training or background. And so I think you'll find these articles really interesting and thought-provoking, and we're going to use that to inspire your next assignment, which again is going to be a blog post that you're going to write that either educates somebody about a particular topic or takes a stance or tries to persuade somebody to take a particular course of action on a scientific topic. What that assignment is ultimately going to do is going to require you to start to take multiple sources and to integrate them and stitch them into an individual piece of writing while thinking carefully about your audience. So in this next assignment, you're going to have multiple sources of information. So they're going to have to be credible from a scientific journal or academic journal, and you're going to have to put them into conversation with each other, and you're going to have to do that while managing things like language and content level, so that folks can easily access that writing and make sense of it. So we're going to learn from two different writers today, this week, and we'll see where that takes us. So if you need any assistance on your summary and analysis assignment, please let me know. Otherwise, keep the nose to the grindstone. I realize that all of you are in very rigorous programs and are probably swamped with very, very difficult courses. So I don't want this course to be too much of a burden. So at any time, if you feel like you need help, I want you to reach out to me. And that's critically important so that I can help you. Especially in an online environment, you can feel very isolated, I guess I would say. So don't. Know that I'm here to help you in any way that I can. Read my feedback in the forum as closely as you can. Put it into conversation with the feedback that you got from your partner, and try to make revisions that ultimately lead to a very succinct but comprehensive and useful portrayal of the article that you read. If you can do this, I promise you, it will lay a really important and valuable foundation for the writing that you do related to science from here through the rest of your career. I don't care if you go on to become a dual PhD, MD at Harvard Medical School. The ability to read and then distill information is at the backbone of sharing science and scientific knowledge. So thanks a lot.